Hello, I'm Amy from moonmindology.com and today I am covering the chart of California. So don't forget to like, subscribe and comment if you like my content, and if you would like a reading with me, please visit my website moonmindology.com. So first of all, looking at this chart immediately, it's a great chart. You have the ascendant in Libra and it's conjunct a lovely Venus, which is in its own sign. And this is a Malavaya yoga, which brings wealth, luxury and beauty. The moon is also here, so it can be very emotional. It's a very public kind of chart. The moon is about the public and Venus is about beauty, and this combination first makes me think of Hollywood and the arts as well, because it's creative, it's luxurious and it's public. So this is all about the glitz and the glamour, which is what people associate with California. There is a sensitivity with the moon here, and it brings an emotional instability as well. California is renowned for having a high population of people who tend to on the side of veganism and get wrapped up in pop culture and things like that. And I learned recently that California, especially Los Angeles, is a place where people tend to feel peer pressured into having cosmetic enhancements as it's the norm, which for somebody in the UK, I think that's crazy because it's not as common where I'm from. So this is very much a Venus in the first house, as there is pressure to be beautiful. And as the first ruler is in the first house, this is really good for the overall health of the country and also the finances as well. But there is some arrogance and self-obsession, which is the negative side of, the first in the first in its own sign. So this will spill over into culture, the place and the people as well. So when you start to look at the second house, that's your income, and you see the ruler go to the 12th. So this doesn't bode completely well, so that can actually be linked to debts and hidden money. And also, I'd say, as it's hidden money, there is an element of, the 12th house is Justana, which is an evil house. So there could be an association with money coming from questionable means, if you get what I mean, sort of corruption. But Mars is jammed between two benefic planets, which does give it an uplifting yoga called Ashubha yoga. Mars also gets Kuja dosha, so I believe this does still affect a place, even though it is usually a curse for marriage. But I'd say that this is a problem with relationships between California and other places, so there can be disagreements, and that can be because they don't operate in the same way, they don't have the same ethos as other states or other places around them. Mars in the 12th, it can also be very passive aggressive as well, but there is a strong drive to succeed, which is probably part of the reason that everybody knows California and it's so famous and successful. People travel from all over the world and from other states to hone their creative skills and live in luxury. Alas, there is a darker side to California that I think a lot of people aren't wholly aware of. There's lots of opportunities and technology companies in this state, and this can be seen from that Mars placement because that is all about technology and mechanical abilities as well. Mercury is exalted in this position, so it's great for handling money and having purchasing power, which can alleviate some of the potential debt. There's also links to foreign countries, and I would say that this house tells me there is a lot of immigration and a lot of freedom of movement, and that is just part of the identity of this chart and of this place. Communication is really good, and that is shown by that really strong Mercury. Jupiter also being here, it brings a spiritual mentality to the people. Sometimes it can be associated with religion, but I don't particularly think California is somewhere where I go, that's a religious place. Spiritual, I would say yes, because you get a lot. yoga is associated with California, more so I think than India in some people's minds, because you've got that kind of culture. It's this positioning here is also linked to philanthropy, but as I said, dark side to the 12th house is a dastana. So it can bring drugs, self-destruction, as well as isolation and destitution. There's also a problem with hidden enemies and thieves as well. So I'm looking at this as, if you don't fall into the way of California and the 12th house, you can get a negative side of that. So this is also the house of sleep. So if you can't sleep well in California, I'd be careful staying there, because you want to expand the good side of the 12th house, which is imagination, getting a good deal, spirituality. But when you start to have negative things pop up, like poor sleep, debt, feeling it's starting to get that nomadic, falling into kind of escapism, I don't think it's like a healthy match, and you could find that you have serious problems with that, because I think this chart is very unforgiving for an inhabitant here. It wants you to be what it wants you to be, and if you don't fit into that, it will spit you out and throw you to the dogs. But if you can afford to live in this state, and it brings out the best of your imagination, your creativity, and just the magic of it all, then go for it. But I would be very wary about if you start to have sleep issues there, because that could be sort of like an early sign that things are changing. But of course, you need to analyze your own chart if you live there or you think about going there. So without further ado, let's move on. The sun is in the 11th. This is so strong, and it's in its own sign. The sun is loud, expressive, it's showy, and this is what comes to mind when people think of California. It's hot, it's trendy, it's full of entertainment, and people go here with big dreams, and they want success. They've got that ideal. They're going to get to the top. They're going to become an actress, become an actor. And there's a great interest in money with this placement as well. And this makes California a great place for business. And there are plenty of opportunities here. And because the sun it means male, men are powerful here especially. And there's an overbearing quality as well. So the leader may always be will always be very rich, but there can also be an arrogance as well, so you need to watch out for that. Unfortunately, there can also be a fakery and a tendency towards using others as well. So this whole chart, as I said, it's sink or swim mentality. There's no room for people who want to flounder or falter. You need to dream big. You need to go to the charity ball. You need to take part, and you need to do the work. And that is really driven home by the fact that also Rahu is in the 10th. This is income, wealth, fame, opportunities, goals. There's successful people everywhere. But there is an obsession with success to the point where I think there's a destructive quality there. And this can sometimes come at the expense of family and home life. Ketu is in the 4th. So this can create a void, a wound, or a loss around property and the family unit, as well as there being deep secrets. So there can be problems with vermin, haunting, gas leaks, and that kind of thing in properties. And it is not great for security either. So there can be problems with intrusion in the home or property. And, land and property can be difficult to attain for normal people. The 4th house is really about your property, your land, weather and stuff like that. Ketu is associated with fire. So this is very, very hot. And as we know, it's hot in California. So also there can be droughts as well. And I know there has been a few droughts recently. And I think that's going to be really highlighted when you see the Dasha change into Ketu. which is going to be straight after Mercury. Neptune is in the 5th house, and this is all about Hollywood. Neptune does have a link to Hollywood. It's about glitz, glamour, creativity, and this house is also about creativity. So this is a really great place for people who have the resources to go here to be creative, because creativity is maximized here. But Neptune is about secrets as well, and scandal. And, you know, that can affect the entertainment industry, as we know. And also, 5th house is about children as well. So take that as you will. Saturn, 6th house, which is all about hard work. And it's really important to be punctual and on time, because otherwise you won't be taken seriously. This is a great placement for agriculture, oil, mining and construction. And anything from the earth or from underground is going to be super profitable here. But there can be problems with health and self-inflicted illnesses from problematic lifestyles as well. There is some affliction to Saturn, which can create a problem with foundations. Saturn is the bone in a human chart, and it can also mean the structure. So this can make an area very vulnerable to landslides and geological events. However, 2 planets are sending benefic rays to Saturn, so unless there is something significant, then mostly it should be okay. But Rahu makes a tight aspect to Saturn, and so does Mercury, which is clouded by that nature of Mars. So there can be an aggressive mentality or behavior to Mercury. And if you think back, I think it was 1906, California was in the dasha of Mercury and Rahu, and that was when that terrible earthquake hit San Francisco. And one of the major triggers, I believe, that caused that was the debilitated Mercury transit going over Saturn in Pisces, as well as a Rahu return. So of course it was aspecting Saturn as well. Both of those planets were aspecting the stability of the country. So the state, I don't know how many times I've said country, but I know it's a state. Right, moving on. I'm in a state. Okay, right. So the next time this dasha, or California will be in this dasha, is going to be April 2026 until October 2028, and we could see something around that time that does cause a great destruction. April 2027, there could be some problems around then, as that's when the half nodal return is. So there is an aspect from K2 to Saturn during this time, so it could be structural. And around that time, Jupiter will be close to natal Rahu as well. Also Mars, which will be debilitated in Cancer, and they will be making an aspect to not only Rahu but Saturn. So this can really expand. There could be something quite significant. And not only that, Mercury will be sitting on Saturn and it will be debilitated. So this does line up with everything that happened last time, but maybe a little. It could be different. It's definitely going to be different. It's not going to be the same kind of thing, but there could be something shocking happen here. So I would keep that in mind. And it does have that similar setup to the chaos in the 1900s, early 1900s, that did bring this terrible event. But one thing I can say from my research is the last time this period happened, there was threats from to people, and there was political corruption as well, and this earthquake actually helped to stop some of that. So there could be a positive side to whatever happens, but I do think it is a little bit concerning around that time, April 2027. So hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully nothing does happen. So overall, Mercury, you know, it does seem to have a problematic influence on this area. So, you know, there could have been some problems when California first went into this dasha, which was October 2016, and it will go on until October 2023. And K2, it can bring some problems as well. As I said earlier, it could be associated with drought. I haven't checked that in history. That just came to me as I was talking, but yeah, that is a potential. I'm not sure what happened last time, but there can be a threat to people's homes as well, especially, you know, land from development, increased prices as well that can affect like the general happiness. So, you know, I think it's important when California goes into K2, it's to, I'd say, become spiritual instead of delving into confusion or falling into sort of like escapism. So it's all about taking the more positive sides of K2 and really running with those as opposed to you know, the more negative sides of them. So really looking at the rest of the year for California, you know, there's quite a few Rahu aspects which can expand Mars as well. So 12th house, there could be some secrets happening. There's an aspect to the sun. So, you know, there could be a sadness for the leader as well. That seems to be going backwards and forwards around about July. So there could be some kind of sadness or some kind of slowdown of the leader, something that affects the leader. But Jupiter aspects Mars in July as well, so that can really bring an uplifting feel, give people energy, there can be energy in that area, especially when we're talking about income as well, as it rules the second house. Jupiter's going to be, or it is aspecting the 4th house, so that can be positive for land and agriculture in some way, shape or form. And yeah, so I think it's going to be a bit of a mixed year because you've got a lot of Saturn aspects, there's some extremes of Rahu, and you know, there are some Jupiter aspects in there as well, which is positive, and it is going to bring positive things. But I hope you've enjoyed my reading. It's really interesting learning about California. It's an interesting place. I feel really lucky that we actually have a birth chart and time for this location, as it is very, very interesting. But thank you so much, and I will see you next week. Thank you. Bye.